There are very few visible minorities I know of in this country, Canada, who actually have the power to greenlight anything in television.
The media is not as inclusive as it might be. I mean, there's not as full a range of different perspectives and ideas that represent sort of the full range of the people of Canada in the media, right? And that's problematic.
Race, in terms of seeing black faces on the TV, no siree. Even when I came to Toronto in 1973, seeing black faces on the TV was a rarity and a welcome thing when we saw things like The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, and those kind of shows that came out at that time, all done by white producers and directors, etc.
What else was there? That Living Single with Queen Latifah and a bunch of them. I remember The Cosby Show and I remember Different World. And those are the shows that I remember distinctly. And I also remember that New York Undercover, Living Single, all kind of disappeared all at once, and TV had that sort of void for me.
In America, where race is one of the key definers of the history of that country, it's still a shame that there's such, frankly, white supremacy on the television.
But the first real program that I watched is sort of, I'm going to watch a program and watch it religiously was Tarzan. And I remember that because I was at Expo 67 and they had like a sort of a daycare center so your parents could go off and see the pavilions while you had to sit there and do arts and crafts. And I did a paper and wire sculpture of an African, and the guy I made was Tarzan. So all they say about cultural imprinting and negative stereotypes, television is responsible for that.
I think television has gotten different. You know, when I was a kid and I was growing up, the thrill was that when you got into the car with your parents and they would drive to the States and they had 6 channels because you only had 2. You had CBC and CTV, so there was being a diversity of voices.
There's a lot of black folks on the TV now. You know what I mean? A friend was pointing out, you notice that all those CSI type shows, there's always a brother or sister who's doing the technician thing, the technician work, the expert in those kind of things. So maybe maybe that's another niche that's happening. But no, I don't think it's really changed significantly. You know, we've seen more people, but again, it's the kind of stories being told and the perspectives being mouthed. So we see a lot of brown and darker faces on TV, but in a lot of cases, they might as well be white, really. And a lot of times they sound white.
I think it's definitely smarter. Not all of it, but I would say that there's better television, I think, than there's ever been.
You can't say that a show like The Wire is not a better cop drama than Hill Street Blues was. You know, ER is a much better medical drama than St. Elsewhere was. Television is consistently getting better. And to the people who say television is worse now than it used to be, I have to wonder, you know, what are they watching?
It's the best and the worst of any culture at any given time. The best stuff is never supported as properly as it should be, and the worst stuff tends to surprise all of us with its commercial viability. So from an entertainment perspective, it's no better or worse than it's ever been. It's a real mirror to our society. From a news perspective, it's radically changed since the mid-'80s, and on that account, I don't think there's ever been a worse time for television broadcasting.